Every morning started the same. Julian would kiss the back of my neck, murmur some half-sleepy compliment, and bring me a cup of his latest tea concoction. Rose hip and cardamom one day, hibiscus and ginger the next. He always claimed it was his love language. And I drank it up literally and otherwise. My name is Sarah Elridge. I'm 38 years old, and I live in Seattle. I'm a landscape architect, the kind who gets flown to Napa or Jackson Hole to design dream gardens for tech millionaires. Julian and I lived in a craftsman home we renovated together in Capitol Hill. We had matching aprons, a wine fridge I never wanted, and a cat we named after a jazz musician. People used to say we were that couple, you know, the ones who finish each other's sentences and somehow make dinner parties feel like curated magazine spreads. If you asked me, I'd have said we were happy. I truly believed it. Until that night. It was a Wednesday, I think, close to midnight. I had fallen asleep reading client notes and woke up disoriented, my Kindle flat on my chest and the other side of the bed empty. I blinked, assuming Julian had gone to the bathroom. But then I heard it, his voice, low and fast, coming from his office across the hall. At first, I figured it was a late-night Zoom call. He sometimes had international meetings, but something about the tone made me freeze. "She doesn't suspect a thing," he said. His voice was muffled, but clear enough through the door. "We're almost ready to move forward." I sat up slowly. A pause. "I know. I just need one more week. Then I'll take care of it." My heart began to thud in my ears. Take care of it? I pushed the covers aside, tiptoed down the hall, and stopped just short of his office. The door was cracked open about an inch. I could see the glow of his desk lamp, the outline of his shoulders hunched forward. Phone pressed to his ear. "No, she's asleep," he said, chuckling softly. "She's got no idea. Trust me, it's cleaner this way." Clean. This way. I backed away, careful not to make a sound. My legs felt rubbery, like I'd been drugged. Back in bed, I lay still, eyes wide, trying to piece together what I'd just heard. My husband, my sweet tea-brewing, shoulder-rubbing husband, was talking about me. And he wasn't just hiding something. He was planning something. That was the moment everything cracked. Not all at once, not loudly, but like the first hairline fracture in a perfect porcelain cup. You don't always hear it, but it changes everything. The next morning, I poured Julian's tea straight down the sink. He was already gone. "Early meeting," his note said, with a smiley face. Like we were still teenagers passing each other love letters between classes. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring at the empty cup in my hand. The edges were stained with the remnants of last night's blend, dandelion and lemon balm. Supposed to be calming, all it did was make me feel like a fool. I don't know what I expected to find when I sat down with my laptop and logged into our joint account. Maybe nothing. Maybe I thought I'd see a big wire transfer, some glaring red flag. But it wasn't like that. It was subtler, almost elegant in a sick way. At first, the numbers didn't make sense. The balance was much lower than I remembered. I clicked through the statements and found transaction after transaction, medium-sized withdrawals spaced out just enough to look harmless on their own. Modern Biotech Investments, LLC, $2,150. Lucent Development Holdings, $3,000. Novagen Strategies, $1,880. Dozens of them, spread over months. Always different names, always slightly different amounts, but all funneled through our shared money. My money, too. I sat there in my robe, cold tea untouched beside me, scrolling through what felt like a ledger of betrayal. This wasn't some one-time mistake. This was methodical, calculated. The front door opened. Julian's voice rang out, light and breezy. "Hey babe, I forgot my presentation folder." I clicked out of the browser just in time and forced a smile as he walked into the kitchen. He kissed me on the forehead like nothing was wrong. "You okay?" he asked, eyeing my untouched tea. "You look pale." I swallowed the rising nausea and nodded. "Just tired. Didn't sleep great." He chuckled. "Maybe you need to switch to my immunity blend." I watched him fish through his briefcase, muttering to himself, completely at ease. The man I married. The man who whispered in the dark that I didn't suspect a thing. He turned back toward me, folder in hand. "Dinner tonight?" "Sure," I said, barely recognizing my own voice. "Great, I'll make the miso salmon. Love you." I waited until the door clicked shut before I let myself exhale. My hands were trembling. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to call him and demand the truth. But I didn't. Instead, I opened a spreadsheet, logged every transaction I could find, created columns, labeled each entry. It was the only thing I could control. That night, I watched him. He cooked like always, humming under his breath. Told me some joke from the office. Gave me the usual rundown of who said what, who missed what deadline, how he was putting out fires all day. I smiled. I laughed in the right places, but something in me had changed. After dinner, he sat on the couch with his phone, texting with someone under the blanket. He angled the screen away, just slightly. Not enough to be obvious, but enough for me to notice. When it buzzed again, he glanced at me and said, "It's just work stuff." He always used to show me, let me read his messages, ask me how to phrase something, loop me into conversations I didn't care about. Now, the screen was a wall. "Long day," I said. "I'm going to bed." "Okay, I'll be in soon," he said without looking up. I lay in the dark, heart pounding, while I heard the buzz of his phone every few minutes. I imagined him typing with that smooth, confident smirk, telling someone else how clueless I was. And he was right. I had been clueless, but not anymore. Saturday morning, Julian was in the shower when it happened. We had just come back from our weekly grocery run. I was unloading vegetables onto the counter, rutabagas and fennel, the sort of ingredients Julian liked to play with when he cooked. When I noticed his phone, glowing softly on the kitchen island, unlocked, I stared at it for a second, frozen. He never left it unattended anymore, never. For the past few weeks, it had been glued to him. Always on silent, always screened down, always with some excuse. Just work. Clinical trial stuff. You wouldn't understand, but now, there it was, sitting next to the bowl of lemons, like an offering. I listened. The water was still running upstairs. My heart was thudding, loud enough that I swore I could hear it echo in the tile. I moved quickly, like my hands had made the decision for me. Picked up the phone, swiped open the Messages app. There were a few recent texts from names I recognized, his assistant, his team lead at work. And then there was one from a number, just a number, no name, no contact photo. I tapped it. There were only a handful of messages. Short, sharp, clean. The latest one read, "Send her the Polaris package. Keep her clueless. We're almost clear." I didn't breathe. Polaris package. Clueless. Clear. I stared at the words, my brain struggling to make sense of them, trying to fit them into any reality that didn't end in disaster. The previous messages weren't any better. Timeline pushed to end of month. Her holdings aren't secured yet. Push for signatures. She trusts you. Use that. Use that. I felt something crack in my chest, deep and invisible, like a rib snapping quietly under pressure. The shower shut off. I placed the phone back exactly where it was, angle and all. My hands were shaking, but I forced them to grip a bunch of kale. I acted like I was rinsing it when Julian came downstairs, towel slung around his neck, shirtless and casual like he hadn't just been plotting something behind my back. He walked over, kissed me on the cheek. "You get the good oranges?" "Yep," I said, voice steady. "Valencia." "Perfect," he murmured, grabbing a bottle of sparkling water from the fridge. "I was thinking we do grilled halibut tonight." "Sounds great," I said. He smiled at me. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, giving him a light smile in return. "Just tired." That night, he kissed my forehead before bed, whispered, "I love you," like he meant it. I lay there next to him, wide awake, counting the seconds between his breaths, the weight of the message still pulsing behind my eyes. Send her the Polaris package. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I knew this. Julian wasn't just lying. He was preparing something. And whatever almost clear meant, I wasn't going to let him reach it. I hadn't spoken to Amelia in almost a year, but when I heard her voice on the other end of the line, I nearly broke. "Sarah," she said, "is everything okay?" "No," I said. My voice was shaking, and I didn't try to hide it. "I think Julian's about to screw me over." It took her less than 5 seconds to shift into lawyer mode. "Where are you right now? At home? Can you talk openly?" I glanced down the hallway. Julian was at work. At least that's what he said. "Yes. For now." "Okay. Start from the beginning. I told her everything, starting with the cryptic phone call I overheard, then the transactions I found in our shared account, and finally, the message I saw on his phone. There was a pause on her end when I finished. Then, Jesus. I know, I whispered. Do you have copies? Screenshots? Anything that connects him to these transfers? Not yet. I didn't want him to know I was on to him. Smart, she said. Don't touch his phone again. Don't confront him. Don't change your behavior at all. We'll handle this clean. What do? I'm going to help you secure your assets, all of them. Your business, the trademarks on your design patents, your real estate holdings, everything. You'll need to move fast, but you can do it legally and quietly. I blinked. Is that even possible? With the right paperwork? Absolutely. You're the primary holder on every major account. And none of your key properties are in a marital trust. That gives us options. I hesitated. He's got contacts, Amelia. Lawyers, financial people. What if he finds out? He will, she said calmly, but not until it's done. The first step was a trust. An irrevocable legal trust under my name only, locking away everything Julian could possibly claim if he tried to make a move. Amelia worked fast. That night, I signed the initial paperwork in her office, under soft fluorescent lighting with trembling hands, and a paper cup of chamomile tea in front of me. She brought in 2 associates and a forensic accountant. We're going to comb through everything, she said. If there's anything Julian's touched without your consent, we'll find it. What if he hasn't done anything yet? Then this becomes insurance. Think of it like earthquake retrofitting. You don't wait until the walls collapse. Over the next 72 hours, we worked nonstop. I barely ate, I barely slept. I sat in that downtown office, hunched over account statements, pulling up old emails, forwarding every document I could think of. Each file I sent felt like a brick in the wall I was quietly building between me and the man I once thought I'd grow old with. By day 3, my hands stopped shaking. I stopped checking the front door every time it creaked. I stopped feeling afraid. Something was shifting in me. This wasn't just self-protection anymore. This was war prep. And if Julian thought I was going to just sit there, clueless and smiling, while he sent me some ominous Polaris package, he didn't know me at all. Not anymore. It was Friday afternoon when Julian came home early. That alone was unusual. He always wrapped his work weeks with back-to-back meetings or some last-minute investor call. But today, he strolled through the front door with that signature half-smile, the one that used to make me feel chosen. He was holding a manila folder. Hey, he said, setting his keys in the bowl like nothing was off. We should talk. I closed my laptop slowly and turned to face him. Sure, what's up? He placed the folder on the table between us like it was a gift. I didn't reach for it. I've been thinking, he said, pulling out a chair across from mine. About where we are. About us. Uh-huh. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, tone still gentle. I think we both know we've grown apart. No hard feelings, no drama, just reality. I stared at him, not blinking. And, I said, Julian nudged the folder toward me. I think it's time for a clean break. Amicable, of course. Everything split down the middle. No need to make this ugly. I opened the folder. Inside, divorce papers. Already filled out, already dated. He watched me closely, waiting for a reaction. I gave him none. You've been so busy lately, he continued. So caught up in work. We barely talk. You deserve something fresh. So do I. I closed the folder slowly and set it aside. You done? That wiped the smug off his face just a little. Excuse me? I pushed my chair back and stood. You really thought I'd be surprised by this? Julian blinked. Well, I mean, it's a lot to take in. Right, I said, walking to the sideboard where I kept my files now. Because I've just been sleepwalking through this marriage while you whispered threats at midnight and drained our accounts into shell companies. He froze. What? I turned, facing him with absolute calm. Don't bother denying it. I've seen the transfers, the messages, the Polaris package. His mouth opened, then shut. His eyes darted toward the folder. You moved first, I said. But unfortunately for you, I moved better. I dropped my own folder onto the table. It was thicker. He flinched when it hit the wood. What is that? He asked, voice tighter now. Legal restructuring, I said. Irrevocable trust. New property deeds. Patent protections. Everything I own is now under independent management. You don't have access to anything. His color drained. I held up a hand. Save it. Amelia Tran's my attorney now. You'll be hearing from her. You're serious. Dead serious. He looked like someone had punched him. His shoulders slumped, but his jaw tightened. You don't get to just shut me out like this. You were counting on me not seeing it coming, I said. You thought I'd cry. Maybe beginning. Maybe offer you a chunk of everything so we could move on peacefully. I smiled. Instead, you're walking away with nothing. Julian stood slowly, his face hard. You'll regret this, Sarah. I didn't flinch. Number you will. He grabbed his keys without another word and stormed out the front door. Didn't slam it. He wasn't that kind of dramatic. But I heard the engine of his car roar like he was punishing the pavement. I sat back down, exhaled, and stared at the empty space across from me. There was no joy in it, no relief, just a silent, growing clarity. The performance was over, and I had rewritten the final act. By Monday, something in the air at the office had shifted. At first, I couldn't quite name it. Just a flicker in the way people paused when I passed. A sudden silence in the hallway when I entered. My assistant, Kayla, looked particularly stiff, eyes flicking toward her monitor every time I walked by. I told myself I was imagining it, but I wasn't. It was just after lunch when Kayla finally knocked on my door. Hey, She stepped inside, holding her phone. I think you should see this. I stood from my desk and took it from her hand. She had a browser tab open, some anonymous forum for design professionals. Not Reddit. Something smaller but oddly active. The post was titled, Top Female Architect Involved in Asset Laundering During Divorce. I didn't have to scroll far. The post laid it all out like a case study. A well-known landscape architect in Seattle had supposedly funneled company funds into irrevocable structures to shield them during a high-profile marital split. It accused her, me, of misusing firm resources, skimming off client retainers, and fraudulently concealing marital assets. No names, of course, but in the comments, someone had already connected the dots. Is this about Sarah Elridge? She's the only one who fits that description. I worked with her once. Wouldn't be surprised. I handed Kayla her phone back, my face perfectly still. How long has this been up? I asked. Maybe 12 hours, she said quietly. I only saw it this morning. Anyone else saying anything? She hesitated. Some of the junior associates are whispering. I think someone sent it around. I nodded once. Thank you. She started to leave but paused at the door. I don't believe it, by the way. None of it. People forget how easy it is to lie when you don't sign your name. After she left, I closed my office door, sat at my desk, and stared. So this was Julian's next move. He couldn't get my assets. So he came for my name. I called Amelia. It's already out there, I said, before she even finished saying hello. Anonymous post. Financial misconduct. They're using just enough detail to make it look real. I'll have my team pull it down, she said calmly. But this was expected. You think it's Julian? I'd bet my license, she said. It's a common tactic in biotech divorces, especially when someone loses control of the narrative. He's trying to ruin your reputation so that, even if he loses legally, he wins socially. Should we go after him? Not yet, she said. But we can start with a cease and desist for whoever owns the domain. And if it escalates, we file for defamation. You're public enough that we can prove actual harm. I looked out my window at the skyline I helped design. The rooftop gardens, the vertical greenscapes that had made my name known. Julian was trying to rip it all down. Let him try, I said. I'm not scared of whispers. That's the spirit, Amelia said. Let's give him something louder to worry about. By the end of the day, the post was gone, but the seed had been planted. I could feel it in the glances, the pauses, the polite distance. Julian wanted me to crumble, to run, to burn energy defending myself instead of preparing. But I wasn't giving him that. Let him hide behind anonymous lies. I had lawyers. I had receipts. And now I had a reason to go on the offensive. The formal lawsuit came 2 weeks later. I was in the middle of a client call when Amelia's number lit up my phone. I let it go to voicemail. She knew I had back-to-backs. But when she texted immediately after, It's urgent, he filed. Call me now. I excused myself and walked straight out of the meeting room. She didn't sugarcoat it. Julian was suing me, claiming financial misconduct, asset concealment, intent to defraud. I expected petty, I said, pacing in my office. I didn't expect a full-blown ambush. This isn't just petty, Amelia replied. It's strategic. He's throwing mud and hoping something sticks. If he can't win by logic, he'll try to exhaust you into settlement. Then we don't flinch. There was a pause on her end. There's more. I stopped pacing. Go on. He's hired a consultant, guy named Caro. Have you heard of him? No. You wouldn't have. He doesn't advertise. He's a fixer. Former corporate strategist turned gray zone operator. His name's been linked to a few aggressive dissolutions, mostly tech divorces and business splits. Accusations of forgery, document manipulation, data planting, never proven. I felt the chill spread through my ribs. You're saying Julian brought in a professional liar. I'm saying we're not just fighting your ex-husband anymore, she said. We're up against someone who makes lies look like evidence. The case file Julian filed was nearly 200 pages. It included screenshots, email printouts, and what appeared to be internal memos from my firm. Documents I had never seen in my life. Some had my signature, sloppily forged. Others referenced non-existent meetings, misrepresented payment transfers, or implied that I had been funneling design contracts into shell entities for personal gain. It was laughable and terrifying. Digital forensics will pick this apart, Amelia assured me, but we'll need time and precision. I've already looped in the auditors. How bad is it? I asked. If a judge didn't know the backstory, she said, they'd think you were hiding millions offshore. I pressed my palm to my forehead. He's not just trying to win. He wants to destroy me. Yes, she said, but he underestimated you. For days, I lived in legal briefs, deposition preparation data pulls. I worked with Amelia's forensic team to cross-reference every document Julian submitted. They pulled metadata, timestamps, even layer data on the PDFs to show where things had been manipulated. And in every spare minute, I fought exhaustion, pushed past the part of me that just wanted to sleep, to cry, to wake up in a different version of my life, because this one had Julian standing in a courtroom, swearing under oath that I had betrayed him, while building an entire case out of glass and smoke. But I wasn't the woman who drank his tea and believed his bedtime stories anymore. I was a builder, a strategist. He was playing chess with a woman who had designed entire cities. And piece by piece, I was setting my board. At night, I'd sit in the dark, fingers wrapped around a mug of coffee, staring at my kitchen where everything still looked perfect. Matching plates, plants that never died. That framed photo from a trip we never actually enjoyed. And I would whisper to myself, he's not going to bury you. He's going to bury himself. Because the thing about people like Julian, they forget that when you plant lies, the roots grow in public. And I was already digging them out. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Polished wood everywhere, stiff chairs, fluorescent lights that seemed to bleach out color, maybe even emotion. But not mine. I sat at the defendant's table next to Amelia, spine straight, hands steady, heart hard. Julian arrived with his consultant. Caro was easy to spot. Tall, gray suit, dead eyes. The kind of man who shook your hand like he was measuring your pulse, not greeting you. He whispered something to Julian before they sat down. Julian nodded, expression unreadable, polished, confident. Still playing the lead role in a movie where I was just the unwitting villain. But he was wrong. When the judge entered, Julian's lawyer jumped into character, calm, persuasive, almost rehearsed in his concern. Your Honor, this is a clear case of calculated fraud. Mrs. Elridge has transferred significant assets out of reach during the dissolution process, created trust without mutual knowledge, and falsified company records to secure control over marital holdings. I didn't flinch. Neither did Amelia. We had rehearsed this. They submitted their so-called evidence, emails supposedly from me authorizing shady transfers, fake internal memos, text messages with doctored timestamps, even forged invoices that looked impressively authentic, if you didn't know what to look for. Then Amelia stood. Your Honor, she began, calm as a glacier, we respectfully request the court's attention to Exhibit 3A. She handed the bailiff a thick folder. Inside, Metadata reports, forensic signatures, and sworn affidavits from digital experts confirming the truth. Every document submitted by Julian's team had been tampered with, some outright fabricated, some partially altered. She showed screenshots from their original versions, compared with the forgeries, highlighted inconsistencies in time zones, font mismatches, even document layer data showing where edits had been made. Then she dropped the final card. Additionally, Your Honor, we subpoenaed Mr. Caro for a deposition regarding his involvement in the assembly of this evidence. The judge leaned forward. Is Mr. Caro present? No, Your Honor, Amelia said. He was served. He failed to appear. Julian's face cracked for the first time. The judge's tone turned sharper. Why wasn't your consultant present today, Mr. Sloan? He asked Julian's lawyer. The attorney stammered. We weren't informed. He had a scheduling conflict. Amelia didn't wait. She rose again. We believe Mr. Caro's absence is deliberate. In fact, Your Honor, we have an independent report linking his name to similar document tampering in 2 unrelated cases, both of which quietly settled before trial. That shifted the whole room. For the next hour, the expert witness Amelia brought, a calm woman in glasses named Priya, methodically explained the forensic process. She pointed to every inconsistency in Julian's evidence, showed how his narrative didn't match objective truth. When she was done, the judge looked back at Julian like he was staring at a crack in the foundation. The decision didn't take long. Given the compelling evidence of fraud, document tampering, and deliberate misrepresentation, the judge said, voice cool and precise, this court finds in favor of the defendant, Mrs. Elridge, on all counts. He wasn't done. Furthermore, the plaintiff is ordered to pay legal damages and relinquishes any and all claims to Mrs. Elridge's estate, business holdings, and intellectual property. Julian stood, jaw clenched, face red, not with rage, but with something closer to humiliation. Outside, the sun was high and hot. I stood on the courthouse steps, shoulders light for the first time in months. Julian followed, his tie slightly askew, his mask slipping. Sarah, he said, rushing toward me. We don't have to keep doing this. I turned. You did this. You blindsided me. You made me look like a fool in there. You did that all by yourself, I said. You tried to steal what I built. Then you tried to ruin me. But now you're empty-handed. He stepped forward, more desperate than smug now. You don't have to destroy me. I didn't, I said. You just forgot I knew how to build. And when people like me build walls, they don't fall down. They stand. He stood there, stunned, reaching for something he no longer owned. Not me, not my life. Not even the version of himself he had tried to sell to the court. I walked away. No drama, no final insult. Just the sound of my heels on concrete, getting quieter with every step, until I reached the end of the block, and didn't look back. It's strange how quiet life becomes when the noise dies down. No more lawyers, no more depositions, no more waking up at 3 a.m. wondering what new lie Julian might spin next. Just mornings. Still ordinary mornings. Coffee instead of tea now. My own blend, my own mug, my own space. Julian's things were long gone. The jazz records, the imported teas, the framed photo of us in Barcelona that used to hang by the stairs. I boxed it all up weeks ago and didn't even watch when the movers took it away. I didn't need to. The house felt different, lighter, like it could finally breathe again. At work, people had stopped whispering. The rumors faded the moment the trial transcripts went public. A few headlines even ran my story. Top architect fights back against smear campaign and wins. I didn't read them. I didn't need to. Instead, I focused on rebuilding. Not my firm, not my image. Me. I started sketching again, the way I used to before everything became contracts and site visits and boardrooms. Not for clients, for me, just pages and pages of wild garden layouts, soft edges, messy symmetry, freedom. I visited botanical parks, places I hadn't stepped into in years. I walked without earbuds, sat on benches, watched how light moved through leaves. Let it wash over me without needing to label it or write it down. Amelia invited me to dinner one evening. Her entire team was there. Young, sharp-eyed women who clinked glasses in my honor. You did more than defend yourself, one of them said. You rewrote the script. I smiled. I didn't need the applause. But I accepted the toast anyway. A few weeks later, I sat at my desk, pen hovering above a blank sheet of paper. I wasn't designing a garden. I was writing a letter. It wasn't for Julian, or the court, or even Amelia. It was for women in my field. Young designers, new entrepreneurs, creative minds with dirt under their nails and ambition in their eyes. I told them what I had learned the hard way. Protect your work. Understand your finances. Don't hand over your passwords, your signatures, your instinct. When something feels off, it probably is. And when someone calls you paranoid, that's when you look even harder. I didn't sign it as Sarah Elridge, Principal Architect. Just Sarah. That felt enough. The letter made its way into a few newsletters, then LinkedIn posts, then podcasts, quietly, organically. And one afternoon, a young woman emailed me. I read your letter. I'm reviewing all my contracts now. Thank you, that was the first message. Then came more. I never replied to all of them. But I read every single one, and not once did I think about Julian. I thought about the sky, how clear it looked above my studio window, how it felt to walk outside and not flinch at shadows, how I'd spent years designing spaces for other people to feel calm in, and finally remembered I could design one for myself. That was the real ending, not a courtroom win, not the settlement. Just a quiet moment with dirt on my hands and peace in my lungs. No more whispers, no more tea. Just me, and that was enough.